What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down some very important news coming out for the markets going into next week, and why Tesla's in a very, very critical position right now. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Now, this offer ends in just about 4 days from now, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So looking at Tesla, we closed up about 0.75% for the day, but the daily candlestick's looking a little bit weaker for Tesla as we're on a downtrend, and so far Tesla's looking a little weak. Looking at the way the market closed, I could see more downside on SPY as well, looking at the daily candle. I think the market is still in a bottoming process, but we're not necessarily in with the bottom just yet. So there's a possibility of more downside to come for Tesla and the markets, just a little bit more before we start to see things change. And this is going to be very dependent on what happens on Wednesday, because for Wednesday we have the FOMC meeting, and this could change the direction of the market in a flash, especially when Jerome Powell gives his speech at the press conference. So we're going to be watching this on Wednesday. Whatever Jerome Powell says is going to be very important, and this could have a very, very big effect on how the stock market moves. So make sure you're prepared for this and make sure you're ready. But that's going to be on Wednesday of the upcoming trading week. And for now, the market's going to have some time to just continue to move just based off some very minor pieces of data and such. Later on for the week, we have more data coming out. We have some very, very big earnings coming out too, especially Apple's earnings on Thursday. That is going to be very important. Look at the current technicals. The market is looking very fearful. We're seeing the market becoming extremely fearful on the fear and greed index. We're on extreme fear mode right now. And we're seeing extreme fear make up market momentum. The other summation indexes and factors like that are just looking a little bit more weak. But remember, when we hit these extreme levels, yes, the market could drop a little bit more, but this is when the market tends to bottom. This is when the market tends to slow down. So with that being said, if the market is due for a bottom very soon, I believe that this could be triggered by the FOMC meeting or other factors like that. But just know that this is suggesting that the market's in a bottoming process, and very soon we're going to see a bottom. So I will talk more about this in tomorrow's video, but for now, I just want to call a couple of things out. For Tesla, we have some new developments going on with the current, technicals and the data affecting the stock. You can see right here that the price price ratio is still at this low level. It is trying to base right here as Tesla's performing very equally with the markets, and the way the market moves will affect Tesla. So if we see SPY truly sell off more, this is going to have a big effect on how it continues. But the best thing to do is just to be as patient as possible, because we don't want to become overly bearish until Tesla truly gives us confirmation to do so. But for now, we're holding 200. We'll see if 200 holds, and we're going to be very patient, especially going into next week. Now, moving forward with everything that's coming out, you can see that when it comes to seasonality, Mondays tend to be green only about 53% of the time, and there's not much else to talk about except for this chart right here, as Octobers tend to be weak. Yes, it's going to be a weak month for Tesla, but Novembers tend to be one of the strongest months of the year, and things could change in a flash before you expect it. I also want to add that when it comes to shorting on Tesla, we saw about 84.69 million Tesla shares being shorted. And that's once again very, very important. So we're seeing more shorting going on with Tesla. We saw an increase in the short interest. The short interest increased by 3%. And we're seeing more and more of them continuing to short Tesla. So with shorts piling in, with more and more individuals and institutions betting that Tesla is going to tank, this is going to be very important. This is going to have an effect on the stock. And this could cause a little bit more downside. But we're not necessarily ready to see Tesla crash to super, super low values unless we end up breaking below 200. And so far, we're trying to hold above this. Even if the market does continue to sell off, I think that there's going to be a very good dip buying opportunity that's coming. And I think that we're still looking a little bit weaker. But I still hold the same view, which I'm going to talk more about for tomorrow's video, about why I think there could still be a November squeeze coming, and we're getting very close to it potentially. But for now, before we hit November, we have a few more days left for October, especially for trading. There could be more downside for Tesla looking at the daily. I think that SPY could have a big effect on it. SPY is still continuing to sell off alongside SPX, which are tracking each other. Well, SPY is tracking SPX, but you guys get my point. Looking at SPY, we're looking weak still. We had a very weak looking daily candle, and we have that unfilled gap all the way down in those lower levels, especially at that 404 level. So I think that could be very impactful for the way this thing moves. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we see SPY approach 405 to 404, potentially even 400 if we do break below 410, which is very probable looking at the current technicals. And if we end up losing 410 going into next week, we already did this week. So if we continue to break down, I mean, 405 to 400 are going to be some very good buying opportunities. I think that could drag Tesla down a bit more. As for Tesla, Tesla is continuing to sell off. We could see this thing approach 202.5 all over again. We're going to be watching to see if Tesla could hold 202.5 to 200. Do we hold this area? Do we break below it? If we lose 200, I'm going to turn more bearish because we have an unfilled gap in the 190s. I could see Tesla dropping down towards 193 if that ends up being the case, but watch this current trend for the time being. Tesla's making lower highs and lower lows. We have this big rejection off this 212 area. It is looking a bit more bearish. It looks like it's going to retest this low right here. So we're going to be watching to see if this holds going into next week, but it looks more bearish for now. On the QQQ, we're starting to look a little weaker. Now, even though this thing is on a decline, this thing is trying to establish a higher low. So it's trying to hold up a little bit better because of Aapl. So we're going to be watching this very carefully, but there is a risk of it retesting 342 going into next week. So there could be a bit more downside, but we're going to be watching that very carefully as this is looking a little bit stronger than SPY for the time being. Looking at basically Apple stock, Apple's looking kind of flat. We are trying to shop around the 168 area, which I believe is going to continue into next week. We have some imbalances to fill, so I could see Apple trying to get back towards 169. But just to be safe, we're going to be watching the trend and see what happens with the very big earnings report that's coming out very soon. And that's pretty much it for now, except for Nvda. Nvda is still looking a little weak as this thing has been declining, but it's approaching some very critical support. So we're going to be watching 402 and 400 as key supports. If we lose 400, watch that gap all the way down to get filled very close to that low 390 area. So 395 or so could end up coming to fill our gap. And then if we do end up hitting the 390 area, we have a lot of support over there that could help this thing hold up. So we're going to be watching it very carefully at those low levels, but I think that some buyers will defend it very close to 390 if we start tipping over there. Because historically, if we look at the chart, we have some critical support right here. We're going to be watching this support around this 400 area, and also right here where this gap is 395. So we're going to be watching those levels, and we're going to be seeing if Nvidia could hold. I believe that some buyers will step in eventually. We have this nice head and shoulders here, which could lead to even more downside temporarily. But I don't think Nvidia is going to crash all the way back down to some crazy low level. I think that buyers will step in eventually, especially in November. And I'm going to talk more about that for tomorrow. But for now, guys, that's it for the video. The market's looking a little bit weaker, so we're going to be watching these levels. There's more shorting going on for Tesla, so there's a risk of more downside. But I believe it's going to be temporary, at least as of right now. I think that's because of what I'm about to talk about in tomorrow's video about November. I still think the market could bounce for November once I give you guys more updates. But that's it for now, guys. I'm going to keep this video kind of short since the weekend is coming up. So have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you again, and peace out.